Okay, so one of the final points now is vascular remodeling. So we have talked about angiogenesis, which is the formation of new vessels. We then talked about collaterals, which is the formation of new vessels, which would bypass a blocked vessel. Okay. Now now we can talk about what if there are chronic changes in blood flow, blood pressure, or both. Okay, let me just clarify this here. So when I say increased blood flow, there's a problem in increased blood flow. I'm talking about the volume. Okay, and when I'm saying increased blood pressure only without the flow component, I'm saying that there is only a problem with pressure. So let me further give you a comment or two to clarify. In hypertensives, what essentially happens in most hypertensives is there's a chronic increase in blood pressure. Okay. Now, if this guy is a new hypertensive, there won't be much change in the volume of blood. You will have the same volume of blood, but the arteries would be stiffer than a younger chap. So they won't expand to accommodate for this increase in pressure. When they become stiffer, the same cardiac output would now cause increase in blood pressure. If you remember the formula for blood pressure is cardiac output into total peripheral resistance. So cardiac output being constant, but the wall has become stiffer, so the resistance will be more, resulting in increased blood pressure. Yes. So there are scenarios where you would have chronically increased blood pressure. Then you have scenarios where your kidneys, as a result of this hypertension, will start to retain fluid. You have decreased kidney blood flow for reasons which we'll discuss in hypertension. And the kidney will start to retain more fluid. It shouldn't, but it does because that's how it's designed. And you have now two issues. You have stiffer arteries and you have more blood volume. So double the trouble for this chap. And let's see how uh, this whole thing now fits into our long-term regulation of local blood flow. So there are four mechanisms mentioned in your textbook. Okay. First scenario is eutrophic remodeling, which is depicted here very nicely, actually. So this is a normal blood vessel, no problems in pressure or flow. And now what happens is that there is increase in pressure. How will how may this vessel respond? One of the ways is inward eutrophic remodeling, which basically is it uh, it rearranges its visceral muscles. First, it vasoconstricts, of course. We've discussed this on the myogenic mechanism. And over chronic, if that event of increased pressure was not addressed, and now it has become chronic, i.e., increased blood pressure all the time, then those vessels which constricted, their vessel wall, the visceral smooth muscle in their wall, uh, readjusts. And now this is a very interesting word, readjusts. It readjusts in a way to accommodate or absorb this increase in pressure, but still keeping the same cross-sectional area. I was thinking of an example for this to explain it to you. It's like, a new sock. There is a brand new sock that you've just bought, okay, as compared to your old sock or your dad's sock, okay, which he has worn out, or because of maybe he has a bigger foot, it has different dimensions. Your new sock, you put it on, okay. What does the sock do? Does the sock change its internal diameter? It does, but how does it do it? It basically adapts to the shape of your foot by readjusting its balls, doesn't it? You have never paid attention to the sock, did you? If you did, you would understand. A new sock, when you put your foot in it, it will readjust by readjusting the small elastic components in its walls so that it takes the shape of your foot. Okay, your foot will not change its shape, of course. The sock will have to oblige, and it does that by changing its uh, uh, shape, the shape of the wall, the volume being the same. Okay, it's the closest, guys. It's the closest example that I could think of, while not being explained, trying to not having to explain it with my hands or with a blackboard. This is the best, I think, the example. Inward eutrophic remodeling is in small vessels which constricted, trying to resist the chronic change in blood pressure with no cross-sectional area by readjusting the smooth muscle in the wall so that it absorbs the blood pressure. So that's one way uh, things can happen which controls local blood flow. The second one is an explanation of the large vessels which don't constrict. Again, this happens and vasoconstriction happens in the small muscles, small vessels, I beg your pardon. The larger ones, they don't vasoconstrict. Instead, what happens in them is a phenomena called hypertrophic remodeling, which is depicted here. So basically what happens is the visceral smooth muscles, they proliferate in number and they enlarge in size. Okay. So they resist the damaging effect of increased blood pressure over a long period of time. This increases their thickness and the total surface area. Okay. And this, by the way, also increases their stiffness. So this is that cost that you need to understand. You have chronic hypertension. Hypertrophic remodeling will absorb that hypertension, will absorb that chronic raised blood pressure all the time by literally increasing the thickness of large arteries so that they don't burst or they don't damage easily by this constant increase in pressure. However, by adding to their thickness, they also become stiff. So the diastolic pressure will drop and the systolic pressure will increase, basically saying the blood pressure will further increase, further worsening the hypertension. Um Remember, these are not, these are just remedial measures. These are not therapeutic in the sense that they don't bring the whole thing down to dot. This is the normal vessel, not this, not this, this. So we need to keep the vessel as much as possible in this scenario. If we don't properly control our food, or we don't exercise, or we do this silly thing called smoking, then you will end up having this, which will, okay, hold the fort for a while, but this in itself is a problem. This makes the whole thing stiff. Okay. Third point is outward remodeling. So when this whole system is exposed to even further chronic increases in blood flow, so if the kidneys keep on adding volume to the blood, okay, uh, what happens is this will then expand the the lumen of these large vessels will expand with little change in the wall of the vessel, in the wall of the vessel. And you have a total increase in cross-sectional area. Now, look at the cross-sectional area here, here, and then look at the cross-section here. There's obviously a greater cross-sectional area through which blood can flow. This again will uh, uh, contribute to decreasing the blood pressure that this increased uh, blood flow will obviously exert on the walls. By enlarging this whole lumen, you're trying to dissipate that increased pressure that comes in with that increased blood flow, okay, by increasing the cross-sectional area. And lastly, outward hypertrophic remodeling. This was outward remodeling. This is outward hypertrophic remodeling. This happens when the guy is not listening to the doctor. He is his diet is outrageous. Salt intake is outrageous. Meat and all the fried things and this, that, the other. He's not exercising. He's not quitting smoking. He's sedentary. He just sits in his office and works and does not move around much. So then what happens is the kidneys keep on adding the fluid, which increases his blood flow, the volume of it, and his blood pressure also rises because the arteries are becoming stiffer and stiffer. In this case, the lumen does enlarge, but to a lesser extent, the wall thickness really enlarges. The whole thing goes outwards. The total cross-sectional area does increase a lot, but at a cost which we have already discussed. So these are vascular remodeling, the four scenarios where the vessels themselves remodel. The first two, angiogenesis and collaterals, they are examples where the vessels multiply in numbers. This is a good depiction of how the existing vessels, they change their shape. This happens mainly in big and smaller arteries, while the number angiogenesis and collaterals, they occur in the smaller vessels and meta-arterioles and capillaries and so on.